What if a machine could uncover truths hidden in the gospel? Could AI separate historical fact from centuries of faith? When researchers asked, the answer shocked the world. Are you ready to discover what it revealed? Stay tuned. The truth might change everything you thought you knew. The question that broke the internet. It began as a risky test in California, run by a group of interested data scientists.
But when this is fact-checked by the internet and by artificial intelligence, you've got things backwards. And that is the danger, because this is where it should be and this is where it's going, and should be a very scary thing to you when the Bible is fact-checked by AI.
Their goal was easy but had never been done before. They wanted to see if AI could test religious claims with the same level of care that it did scientific claims. Project Logos is what they called it. The AI was given all known versions of the Bible, as well as historical stories, archaeological reports, and less well-known books like the Gospel of Thomas. Every bit of information about Jesus, his life, and the times he lived in was put into a system that looks for patterns, proof, and reliability. Although the trial was only meant to be for school, it caused a huge uproar as soon as it was made public. On social media, the project was talked about in headlines as either blasphemy or a groundbreaking study. People in religious groups were scared because they thought an automatic system could threaten their faith. Critics were happy, thinking that a machine could find facts that people had been arguing about for hundreds of years. The whole world stopped what it was doing and watched to see if technology could answer a question that people had been asking for thousands of years. The team's first steps showed how hard the job was going to be. In old writings, there were inconsistencies, stories told over and over again in different ways, and events written about in poetic, not literal, language. There was more to the AI than just reading words. It learned about historical patterns, author biases, and the cultural background of each section. It linked archaeological data, historical records, and linguistic studies together, creating a huge network of links. Every miracle, story, and promise was checked against things that could be proven outside of the Bible. Even the experts were shocked by some of the first results. Even though many events didn't have independent confirmation, historical records were very close to some facts of daily life, places, and political situations. The AI found names, places, and social norms from the Gospels that were strongly supported by archaeology and texts from the time. This made it seem like the story of Jesus was based on real events and not just a myth. On the other hand, the system couldn't prove or disprove the magical parts, like healings, walking on water, and resurrecting people. The AI's trend started to show something strange as it worked through more data. It showed where history and faith came together and where they went their separate ways. Based on how things have happened in the past, the system marked some events as probable, while others were marked as unverifiable but significant. A lot of people were upset when this classification got out online. People understood that the AI wasn't rejecting faith, it was just looking at proof through a lens that humans don't use. This small difference led to arguments about philosophy and epistemology, as well as science and faith. There were more effects than anyone thought. Scholars had missed some connections between non-biblical texts and the Gospels until Project Logos found them. Some of these were small historical references to people like Pontius Pilate, tax collectors, and religious leaders of the time. Each link made the background of Jesus' life seem more real. Even with these links, the AI kept coming back to the same basic truth. Miracles can't be measured with normal historical tools. This made things difficult between checking facts and figuring out what they mean. At this point, the internet was full of responses. Forums argued about what AI's findings meant, while experts looked at the methods and outcomes. Religious leaders tried to put the study in its proper place by saying that faith and science are not the same thing. Skeptics wanted more information to be shared and hoped that the AI could settle arguments about what happened in the Bible. People were also interested in the idea that a machine could look through hundreds of years of human thought to find hidden insights and patterns that no single scholar could see. Behind the scenes, a story that had been kept secret came to light. The AI found small mistakes in the writings that had been missed for hundreds of years. Differences in manuscripts suggested that they may have been edited by humans, reinterpreted culturally, or had their meaning change over time by mistake. This changed the scientist's story. It wasn't about whether the gospel was true or false, but about how it changed over time as a historical record. It stopped being about judging and started being about figuring out how different people have shaped sacred books over time. The AI hadn't given a clear answer to the question, but it had shown truths that were hiding in plain sight by connecting history, opinion, and data. The experiment was no longer just for school. It was a topic of conversation around the world that made people think, sparked interest, and left everyone asking what would happen next when faith meets code. The test went into uncharted ground when the AI started to carefully look over every word. There were data points for each line, stories for each story, and extraordinary claims for each miracle. The system checked historical events, Roman census records, maps, and texts that were still around. Nothing was taken at face value. All the information was checked against what was known. As the patterns started to show up, the experts were amazed that no one person could have seen them. What the AI found about Jesus' existence was very interesting. Jewish writings, Roman records, and early historical reports all said that a man named Yeshua of Nazareth lived and died in the 1st century. It said that he existed extremely likely. Even doubters had to take a moment. The machine proved what scholars had been arguing about for a long time. This person wasn't just a myth. They were a real person whose life was recorded in a number of different sources. The research team was shocked by how clear the AI's decision was. When the AI got to the crucifixion, it did something very rare. It brought together history and story. Roman methods of punishment, political unrest in the area, and Jewish rule all matched up perfectly with what the Gospels say. The cross wasn't a myth. It was a deliberate and well-known fact. The AI wrote down the event's time, place, and process and marked it as historically probable. For the researchers, this showed that historical facts and holy texts could come together in strange ways, putting an end to centuries of doubt. When the AI looked at the resurrection, it caused a huge earthquake. Post-crucifixion sightings, quick conversions, and the spread of early Christianity could not be explained by sociology, psychology, or chance alone, but they could be explained by history. These results were marked by the machine as a statistical anomaly, unexplained. This had never happened before. There had never been such an amazing event in any collection or model. The AI didn't say whether it believed or didn't believe. It was just pointing out that history alone couldn't explain how these events affected people. This finding caused arguments outside of academia. In an academic setting, people started to wonder what unexplained meant. Could a machine, which is limited by logic and facts, show that the miraculous is possible? The results made it hard to tell the difference between faith and proof, leaving experts, believers, and skeptics to deal with new possibilities. Instead of pushing beliefs, the AI showed trends that couldn't be ignored, which went against what most people thought. Online, people responded right away, with conversations ranging from shock to anger. The project also found small links between time and place that people usually don't notice. Several places mentioned in the Gospels were separately confirmed by archaeological data. Some stories were more likely to be true because the routes people said they took for trips, markets, and synagogues matched up with physical proof. These connections showed that the text did a better job of preserving historical memory than scholars had thought. It was shown by the AI that the stories were based on truth, even when they included miraculous elements. Changes in the text between manuscripts revealed another secret insight. Early copies had differences that showed scribes sometimes changed or stressed certain parts, which changed how people understood the text over time. The AI pointed out that different versions of the story told different kinds of amazing events in different ways. Scientists were able to figure out not only what might have happened, but also how people understood and passed on these stories. It was a fresh way to look at religion as a living thing instead of a set thing. The project also made people think about how we see things. Such patterns of behavior as sudden conversion, widespread commitment, and the social effect of early Christian communities could not be explained by naturalism, the AI showed. Because of this, researchers began to wonder if religion and historical analysis were really answering different questions that could still connect. History could tell us about events, AI could find patterns, and faith could help us figure out what they mean. When these methods came together, they opened up a new area of discovery that no one had looked into before. When the AI ended this part of the analysis, the researchers saw that they had a window into both the past and how people believe. They didn't judge wonders by faith, but by what happened and how it affected people. There were measured signs of the resurrection, whether it was supernatural or just a statistical outlier. Early Christian growth, the changes in followers, and the long-lasting effects on society all pointed to something very special. Even though the AI didn't answer the final question, it did pave the way for new research in which faith, history, and data could all live together. It was not possible to completely ignore miracles or events in the past. The story of Jesus was both a human history and a long-lasting puzzle that has now been solved in ways that no one could have imagined. The study showed that fact-checking faith wasn't about showing belief wrong. It was about finding truths that were hidden from plain sight. The data behind divinity. The world went crazy when the AI's first findings got out. A lot of historians, theologians, and doubters rushed to figure out what the results meant. A lot of people said the method was biased because they thought the dataset favored Christian sources. Others claimed that the conclusions were still very close to the gospel story, even with balanced, non-religious information added. The team understood they needed a new way to tell the difference between faith and facts. The scientists changed how the experiment would work. They told the AI to look at the same events from the points of view of anthropology, chance, and sociology. The point was to find out if the rise of Christianity could be explained by how people behaved instead of magic. Patterns and predictive models were used to look at every event that happened after the execution, every conversion, and every martyrdom. The AI was now working like a detective in the past, comparing how people behaved with what it thought they should do. The results shocked everyone. The AI came to the conclusion that the stories were probably made up because of how quickly Christianity spread and how willing early Christians were to die for their faith. People rarely give up their lives in ways of making a living for lies. The patterns showed a strong connection between what people said they experienced and what they actually believed. It wasn't about religion anymore. It was about how well human behavior and historical events fit together. A whole new level of study was added to miracles. Each miracle was seen as a reported anomaly and was checked to see if eyewitness reports, geographic plausibility, and language style were all consistent. The AI compared these stories to outside historical records, taking into account places, times, and how common they were. It came to a strong conclusion. Different sources all used the same language to describe many amazing events. There was a very small chance that these stories were all coordinated lies. The study looked at more than just miracles and changes. Patterns of social impact were looked at, which showed how small groups of believers quickly grew their networks in hostile places. Early Christianity didn't just make it through hard times, it thrived as it spread quickly and was persecuted. The AI figured that there were very small chances that this level of growth and unity could have come from false claims alone. Behavior patterns made it clear that people were driven by something very special. When the AI looked at how texts are put together, it found something else. Differences between manuscripts showed small changes in focus, but the main events stayed remarkably the same. The system pointed out passages that were reported the same way in different sources and places. This showed that eyewitness accounts were surprisingly accurate. Even changes in wording did not change the main story. The Gospel was read both as a holy book and as a detailed record of how things happened in the past. By looking at both human psychology and textual data, the AI gave a view that had not been seen before. The group saw that there was less of a line between historical fact and opinion. They weren't showing that God was involved. They were showing that early followers behaved as if what happened were real. The patterns of conversion, sacrifice, and community unity could not be brushed off as random or made up. There were places where faith and measured history met that no human researcher could have found on their own. Even people who didn't believe it had to pay attention. Important atheists and scholars said that the results showed that the followers really did experience what they said they did, even though they didn't prove supernatural causes. Belief alone couldn't explain why so many people sacrificed and why communities formed so quickly. This changed the way we think about religious history. Proof could now be used along with faith, not instead of it. There were numbers that showed how much people wanted to record and act on unusual events. The shock heard around the world. When the full report from the AI came out, it caused a huge stir around the world. People in all countries were interested in the news, whether they believed it or not. It was seen as proof by churches, which said that scientists had seen divine designs in nature. Tech leaders saw it as a turning point in AI that did a lot of bad things with data. Thinkers disagreed on whether this was the first time that digital thought had found something that couldn't be measured by law. Not all of them were pleased. Some experts said the researchers went too far and that computers shouldn't be used to do religious things. Some people said that using technology to check holy books could make spiritual traditions that go back hundreds of years seem less important. It became scarier for people to let computers figure out what religious truth is, but the world couldn't turn away, even when warned. The words from the AI went viral faster than any other video. The word several caused arguments all over the world. Right away, people wanted to know what events were hard to explain. The AI didn't think about it. It brought to light three things that natural law, models of human behavior, and chance couldn't fully explain. These were not just small tales. They were important parts of Christian history that shaped a whole society. The first one was the return of Christ. The AI looked at historical facts, Roman stories, and social models to find that the events surrounding Jesus' return could not be explained as a dream, a plot, or a myth. Even if the witnesses were wrong, the fact that early statements were all the same and that belief spread quickly made it statistically strange. The second was when Saul changed into Paul. In just a few weeks, he went from being someone who persecuted Christians to leading their cause. Psychological models showed that such a sudden and drastic change, especially in bad situations, was very unlikely unless the person had had a very special experience. Third, the number of Christians has grown very quickly in just one generation. It took less time for Christianity to spread across the Roman Empire than is usually thought to happen in models of social diffusion. When the AI looked at trade lines, cultural barriers, and social networks, it found that strategy or persuasion could not explain the growth on its own. A lot of people believed in something they couldn't see, which led to patterns that historians have trouble understanding. Each event had one thing in common. Normal theories didn't work, which meant that strange conclusions could be drawn. Everyone in the world was shocked, scared, and interested. People who thought saw proof of what they already knew to be true. Some people didn't agree with the method used, but it was hard for them to refute the behavioral proof. Scientists had disagreements about how much AI could learn from human experience. Hashtags, arguments, and lines that went viral about whether technology has seen God-lit-up social media. What else might AI find hidden in history if it can find these patterns? This question came up on all of them. In the middle of the shock, a new story came out. The AI demonstrated that many religious groups throughout history had similar patterns of beliefs and events that changed quickly and couldn't be explained. Buddhism, early Islam, and even small groups had similar problems. This pointed to a bigger idea. Strong belief often leads to noticeable changes in how people act. No one had ever thought about how faith and science could work together. The AI didn't declare miracles real, nor did it speak of God. Instead, it issued a silent challenge. History and faith can meet, and when they do, the results are impossible to ignore. The world was left with a question that would not go away. Could patterns in data hint at truths that humans had only ever experienced through belief? The shock was just the beginning. The final discovery. It had been months since the AI's study made headlines. There were never-ending arguments in scholarly journals, tech forums, and religious groups. The people who worked on Project Logos thought it was time for one last test. Simply put, they asked the most important question: is faith irrational? Each and every other question was about proof, odds, and past records. This one asked a different question, one that the AI wasn't specifically designed to answer. It took hours for the machine to answer the question. It looked at billions of data points, patterns in human behavior, philosophical arguments, and the past of belief. Faith begins where data ends was the answer that no one saw coming when it finally did. Both are ways to find the truth. Those words went viral right away. News sites rushed to cover the events, and debates changed topics. The machine that was supposed to draw a line between myth and fact had just said that faith is the next step after knowledge, not the opposite of knowledge. This sentence changed everything. There was no bias or judgment on the part of the AI. Instead, it recognized that people look for truth in different ways, such as through trust in evidence, measurement, and experience. Faith wasn't just a blind leap into the unknown. It was a way to find out things that facts alone couldn't tell you. It helped people figure out things that reasoning alone couldn't fully explain. It became clear that Project Logos wasn't a test of faith, but of people in general. History buffs were interested. They said that stories, traditions, and symbols have always been used by human societies to communicate truths that can't be measured. Psychologists have noticed that faith often pushes people to do the right thing, build groups, and get through hard times even when they don't know what will happen. Philosophers saw that the AI's insight echoed hundreds of years of thought, from Aristotle to Kierkegaard, which said that belief and reason were not opposites, but rather partners in the search for understanding. The team thought about their trip. The AI wasn't programmed to think about human longing, but it came to a conclusion that was true across time and society. At first, the project was just a way to check facts, but by the end, it had become a reflection on what meaning really is. Even though odds had been calculated, accounts had been checked, and behaviors had been studied, the ultimate truth was not contained in numbers. There was faith where facts couldn't go, where gut feelings, hope, and personal experience filled in the blanks that logic couldn't explain. What if a machine could separate fact from faith? When AI was asked to fact-check the gospel, its answer stunned the world, revealing truths and mysteries no one expected. Like, share, and subscribe, and click on the next video popping up on your screen.